Welcome to AtVenture DealFlow. My guest today is Anna Brueva, founder and CEO of ChemReclaim, a deep tech startup based in Amsterdam. ChemReclaim is developing next generation nanopowders and coatings that reduce the use of critical metals while improving performance in sectors like aerospace, energy, and semiconductors. Welcome, Anna. Really great to have you here today.
Hi, Laurie. Thanks for having me.
Hi. Yes, the floor is yours. So go ahead, and it would be great if you could share your story about ChemReclaim.
Yes, of course. So ChemReclaim, as you said, is a deep tech startup. So we were founded 2 years ago, and we develop and produce nanomaterials. So nanopowders and coatings from two metal categories, precious metals and rare earth metals that you may read in the news. And where we focus on is really on reducing the metal usage in the product, like semiconductors, energy, or advanced ceramics, for example. But we also enhance the product performance because material behavior is changing using the nanoscale. So this is what we do. And we currently focus on two sectors, advanced ceramics and semiconductors, because there we see the very high pressure on accessibility and the price of the critical metals that is used. Because you may know that 90% or 98% of the rare earth metals are now imported to Europe from China. So there is a high pressure on the accessibility. Market volatility and the pricing for metals like gold or silver is going through the roof. It's also creating huge pressure on the industries right now, like semiconductors. And we also have a EU regulation that is currently enforcing actually companies use EU-based materials as much as possible or work on the supply chain resilience. So we actually aiming to tackle all of the sectors by using our advanced materials.
Cool story, and I think we discussed it before. It's really quite technical, but
Yeah.
I know you're really good in explaining it in a simple way. So let's try to make sure that everyone understands what it is exactly that you're doing. I think the first question I would have is it's quite specific, right? So how did you come with this idea? What is your background, or when did you first experience an issue or saw this problem? Can you tell me a little bit about it?
Yeah. So basically, I come from a deep tech background. So many do
Hmm.
not know because I spent a lot of years working for corporate, like Philips. But I actually started my career in the deep tech before it was a buzzword. So in the chemical engineering, and I also come from the family of engineers. So actually, the whole kind of technical background is not new to me. But early in the days when I was a student, I decided to switch to business and finance, because I wanted to basically explore different
Different options.
opportunities,
Yeah.
different options exactly. So, but actually, I stayed very closer connected to the network and to the developments. I'm very curious. So actually. Nanotechnology was already quite developing in back in the days, like 10 years, 15 years ago, and we were closely connected to the scientists and to the R&D researchers in these technologies. So when we actually saw that, we were investing as well in it, so supporting the development of this technology on
Mm.
the side. So when actually we saw that it's being matured, it's being developed, and we're getting to the successes, we decided to take it over and to really see to bring it to the market, because we saw really big impact, the possibility actually to bring the impact, especially in the metal market development. So
Yeah.
that was the technical side of it, and on the commercial side, yeah, I think it all came together very nicely in a way several years ago, where actually also scarcity and access to the metals became more and more in the news. We started seeing that rare earth metals becoming more unavailable or becoming more scarce. It's difficult to stockpile. So actually, we saw really the development on all the sectors in the news that, okay, this is really the hot topic. So it actually came very nicely together, the solution that we were building and the problem that we were seeing. And
Hmm.
that's when I decided to step out from my corporate career and fully dedicate myself to bringing this to the market, to this product to the market. So actually, it came full circle after 20 years from starting in deep tech and moving to it
Back
again.
to deep tech. Yeah. And you
Exactly.
take all your experience, of course, from the corporates, being in finance with you. And you say we, so it's you. And who else is there on your team?
Yes, so we have a team of 4 right now, so we're very lean,
Yeah,
very lean and functional in a way. So I'm the CEO, so I work on technology, but also on the customer value and fundraising. I have a CEO, operations officer, fractional support. My co-founder actually is a CEO right now, so he's also bringing corporate experience and lean experience, really focusing on our KPIs, OKRs, and everything, making sure that we don't move away from our goals. So
and
we
he
have
was the
six.
one joining you from the beginning, right? So you started
Yes. So
with the two of
yeah,
you together. Yeah,
yeah. So my co-founder and my partner. So we started this together.
yeah,
And we have a CTO who actually has 30 years of experience in chemical engineering, mechanical engineering, who is actually behind the technology. He is fully into development and scaling and validation. And also we have a BDM right now. She's helping us with market readiness, with
yeah,
validation. We're very busy right now on these two sectors, validating the problem solution.
yeah.
Yeah.
And you say so it's your co-founder and your partner, so you are a couple as well.
Yeah.
Let's say your personal life. Okay, okay.
Yes.
And
Yes.
how is
So
that
it's
working? Yeah,
yeah, so it's very interesting because I thought it would be really really challenging in a way to combine different hats,
yeah.
parents, partners, business partners, and so on. It is challenging, obviously, but I really value that we can have really honest conversations. We have one goal. We have really tough conversations sometimes. So actually, it turned out to be very productive. So we can really
Okay,
get to the problems and get to the
okay.
solutions quickly. Yeah,
And you keep some stories out of the dinner table, probably. I mean, sometimes you really need to be, otherwise you keep on talking, of course, about the business,
exactly.
and
Yeah,
vice versa. So I think, yeah, oh,
yeah,
interesting. So 4 people in total, and you say, okay, the problem is huge, right? So because there's really a big demand there, there is not enough. Does it also mean that it's difficult for you to source? Let's say in your supply chain model, is it also
mhm.
difficult to source materials for your nano powders, basically?
Yeah. So there are several aspects that we need to take into account. So
Yeah,
we are not talking about tons of the metals in our solutions. So our solutions are low volume, high value materials
yeah,
because these materials are used as an additive in many cases to the main product. So it's mixed, let's say, as a 3% of the additive to the total material. So, but it boosts the functionality. So this really, in that sense, low volumes that we're talking,
yeah,
and low volumes, maybe 10 kilograms per month for the customer, for example, or 100 kilograms per year.
yeah,
So on a supply chain, we also looking into a recycled path. So for the precious metals, we use fully recycled materials based in Europe. We have multiple recyclers here, which is really helping us to secure the source. So this is a story that we are building on. For the rare earth metals, it's still we are looking into different options. There's very limited recycling
yeah,
available. So we are looking on a different ways from distributors, etc. But we already have a portfolio of suppliers that we rely on to de-risk it a little bit. But for the still, it's still a hot topic indeed.
yeah,
For the rare
yeah.
earth.
So in terms of your problems, let's say it's not the sales could be the problem. I mean, because there is quite a big demand, but it's more the other side, right? That could be an issue. So that's something that you're working on. Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
just to put it into, and you say, okay, so you buy that from someone, so you pay price for that. So in terms of your business model, how would it work then? So you are then working on this and you are selling it again. Is it like a fixed contract or how does your business model work?
Yeah, so basically it's a B2B model and
Yeah,
we produce indeed so the product, we sell and ship the product. So basically material price is a critical component in that sense, right? So it's traded. So metal like gold, for example, it's traded. So it's in the fluctuations we need to account for.
yeah,
But of course, in principle, the value of this material is in purity, but also in a specific particle size. So the finer the metal, the more value it brings to the customer. So in that sense, we assess it's a value-based pricing that we're using right now. So we, of course, keep the metal price as a part of the pricing, but we also discuss, okay, how much value or how much savings it can deliver to the client.
Yeah. Yeah, so in that sense, of course, the prices can fluctuate quite a lot, right? Because of indeed the price of your material. So you don't have to hedge that, just from my understanding, but you just put it on to the customer.
In some cases, we can also hedge it because our suppliers have the tools to
Yeah.
basically to de-risk it, to de-risk the price fluctuations. But again, we are not working in the volumes that require
No. So it's just so
such
small.
a
Yeah. Yeah.
de-risking. Yeah.
And what are we talking about then in terms of savings for a customer? So is the savings is really in terms of money? Is there also a saving? I mean, I can imagine also an impact, of course, because if they get it from you instead of from China, what are the real impact drivers for them?
Yeah, so we are now, as I mentioned, we're doing extensive validation in those two sectors. So, for example, for ceramics, we see that we can reduce the metal needed by, for example, 5 to 10 times in terms of the volumes. So, in terms of the price, it can be, of course, at a higher price, but volumes were really saving for the customer. So, on the average, we say between 500,000 to 2.5 million per year. We are calculating, depending on the material, we're calculating the saving.
Yeah,
While adoption costs, or sorry, switching costs are not that high because they're still using the metal. And it's
yeah,
not a new material for them. So we're also assessing how much is the switching cost. At this moment, we see that switching costs are not high. So they are basically savings are very attractive.
yeah. And impact, I can imagine as well, right? So because of getting it from China, next to the fact that what you mentioned, there's new legislation that you actually cannot source everything from outside of Europe. Can you share a bit about that?
Yes, so indeed, the supply, basically the origin, country of origin is quite
Yeah.
important, especially for European manufacturers. In that sense, plus scope 3 reporting for sustainability purposes becoming more and more important, especially for semiconductor industries, where we focus. So scope 3 is focusing on indirect emissions, right? So the more recycled material we use, the better it is, or obviously for the emissions, but also for the reporting, or for the capturing the emissions or capturing the sustainability goals. So basically, we also focus on that. We're making sure that we basically have our portfolios or supply portfolios focusing on recycled products, especially for the precious minerals.
Yeah.
Yeah. On top of
And
that,
yeah,
we
tell me.
maybe just to add, nanoscale materials basically require a lower temperature for the synthesis of the product, or for the sintering
Ah,
of the so gluing the material together. Well, we haven't calculated this yet, but we're also in discussions how much can we cost on this, save on the costs of energy and so on. But this is gonna be in the use case validations that we are going to do.
yeah. Okay. So nanopowders, you get the raw material in, and then what happens and what comes out of the machine again? Because and you're just with four people, so are you doing that by yourself or all these questions?
Yeah, so for in terms of how it works right now, so we are currently working in a lab grade volumes, so we can produce, for example, several grams, so up to kilogram of the material for the samples if they're required. So we have our facility, our lab where we actually produce. We will have equipment. We produce the nanomaterial.
And
Uh,
this is in the
but
Netherlands, the lab. What you
yes,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
We are based in the Netherlands fully, and basically we produce the material. So how it technically works, we actually get a metal in any
yeah,
shape or form, recycled to virgin, and we, with our proprietary technology we developed, we actually transform it into the nanomaterial. We can do it still in quite a lean way. However, of course, everyone is talking about scaling, how fast we can scale. So we can scale to roughly up to 20 kilos per month in a very quick terms, short terms, because we are also using a modular production or modular equipment. So we don't need to build a gigafactory for that. We're actually using the modules to add on each other to basically have a increased production cycle. So in that sense, we can be scaling fast. So yeah, we basically produce the materials in our lab at the moment.
Okay, so you could move from lab to production scale, right? So that's the, let's say, the next step. You're currently doing all these pilots to validate really the product solution fit. How can you take us along a few years? How do you see the future? What are the next steps, milestones, and also in terms of revenues, where do you want to land, let's say, in the next years?
Yeah, so our main objective for this year is to secure several pilots in the semiconductor sector and in advanced ceramic sector because they are completely different materials and different values and purpose of the pilots. So basically, to do the technical validation, to make proof of the concept together with the industry,
Yeah.
and yeah, move towards basically commercial contracts in the future because from industry perspective, of course, they need to understand it in their own environment. So this is our major focus. In terms of sales or commercial paths, so we are currently still pre-revenue. So we are now locking the pilots this year.
And
We are
these
moving.
pilots, sorry, are they paid pilots
Mhm.
or is it
Yeah,
unpaid
yeah,
pilots?
yeah.
Paid
No,
pilots.
no,
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
a paid
Yeah.
pilots. We are moving towards paid pilots in the next couple of several months. Yeah. So basically, this is the objective. In terms of the commercial path, we are planning to start indeed with a sample sale, pilot sale, which is several, yeah, up to several kilograms of the material because typically the manufacturer needs several kilograms to really test it properly. And then our volumes basically vary from 10 kilograms to 100 kilograms per year, which means from 100,000 K to a million per year, roughly
Yeah.
the scope.
Per
We aim to
client, this is
a
right.
client,
Yeah.
yes, yes. We of course aim to scale within 3 to 5 years to really scale to the industrial levels. Typically, typically what we see the adoption of the new technology of the new material in semiconductor space takes around 6 months, from 6 to 12
Yeah.
months. In advanced ceramic space, around a year or 2 years. So it's a bit longer. So
Longer.
we're
Yeah.
counting on that. Yes. Yeah. So
Okay.
we're counting on that.
So you take that along, let's say, in your projections. So
Yes.
what is your goal in terms of how many clients do you want to have in, let's say, 5 year time, and what kind of revenues do you foresee for them?
Yeah, so in the first couple of years, we're really working on early evangelists.
Yeah.
Let's say we need to find the fast movers,
Yeah. The
the
early adopters. Yeah.
innovators in the
Yeah.
fields. Indeed, innovators that really want to use the new material, new technology. So we aim to have from 2 to 5 roughly this year towards next year. We're working on them at the moment. So in terms of revenue, we aim to reach within 500,000 within the next 3 years in these materials. It's still on the last pilot phase, early contract phase.
So let's say this is for the five clients, the early
Mhm.
clients that you are looking for, 500K in terms of revenues, right? It's and
Yeah.
but then of course, I mean, we're talking here about a premium material, so that could mean also quite profitable margins, I can imagine. Okay, so this is about your go-to market. Who is your ideal ICP? Are these five companies that you're talking about, are they only based in the Netherlands, or is this like a global company? How does that look like?
Yeah, so currently, actually, we're doing extensive market validation and we have reached out to 150 companies in advanced ceramics because advanced ceramics is quite a broad market, mainly European. Because a lot of advanced ceramics are concentrated in Germany,
Mhm.
UK as well. So we are looking into that space. In semiconductor, it's very interesting that also during our market validation, we actually understood that we are very well fitting the back end of semiconductors, meaning the packaging. So, in very simple words, when you need to connect the chip to the circuit, this
Mhm.
metal lines is actually interconnectors, is where we can play a good role. And this is where the main value sits. So, this is what we're exploring. So, the back end semiconductors packaging, this is the market and basically the manufacturers, our ICPs. We are
Yeah.
also validating it with them. On top of that, we are doing the technical validations when I'm engaging with the University of Twente in the
Hmm.
projects that actually they work on also semiconductor space. And we have joined the consortium of 3 countries, Netherlands, Austria, and Lithuania, also on specific challenges in semiconductors as a material supplier. So we are
Okay,
also now
great.
doing on top of our market validation and problem solution fit in a classic way, we also do it in the consortium way, which also gives us access to the potential customers and the new markets, basically.
And in terms of market value, how can I see that? Because of course we're talking, you're looking at very different sectors. What is, if we can put a number on it, like what is the value that is in this market in terms of euros, basically?
Yeah, so we when we approached the market as a total, and
Yeah,
we excluded pharma or medical space because it's highly regulated. So we looked at the energy, we looked at the semiconductor, ceramics, and
yeah,
so on. We looked at the global market of 9 billion, nine point
yeah,
five billion of nanomaterials because nanomaterials are already used in various applications, but very, very close in, for example, like catalysts, catalysis, so very niche space as well. So in Europe, it's roughly 2.5 billion of these metals, precious metals, rare earth metals in this space. We aim to target 200 to 300 million of the market. The market is growing, of course, because we are going through energy transition, connectivity, AI chips, and so on. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and the fact what you also say that there is scarcity, but plus the regulation, so not only depending on outside of Europe. So I think that that also
Mhm.
makes, that also works for you probably in terms of momentum right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then because you said something indeed about your sales cycles, adoption cycles of yeah, of the different sectors. These are quite long in some sectors.
Mhm.
How are you approaching that now? Are you already targeting, let's say, for in 3 years, are already speaking and preparing for that? And who is doing that in your team then? Is that you who's
Yes.
preparing for that? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so currently I'm the customer facing.
Yeah,
I'm
you
the
are
one
very
who
busy. Yeah.
translate translate the technical side into the commercial side of the value aspects for the customer, but also we are learning a lot from these interviews and from the discussions, of
Yeah,
course.
sure.
Yeah, so this adoption cycle is relatively long, so even 6 to 12 months in semiconductors is considered long compared to Asia. In Europe, it's considered very long. So we are talking about indeed how we can accelerate it with the smaller pilots with
Yeah,
constant iterations because we try to scope a very specific issue that we want to solve. We don't say
yeah,
we solve all 5 different topics or challenges. So we really try to target, okay, can we deliver savings here? Can we improve performance here? Yes or no?
yeah.
And we try to really scope it or break it down to the very small achievable steps. This also helps the customer
To
absorb
understand
and
and
understand
to,
it.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And of course, I can imagine it helps that if you have done some successful pilots, that it's easier also to adapt, and
Yes.
they probably will adapt faster as well. So when are you expecting the first real results of these pilots?
Yeah, so from technical validation, we see that, for example, consortium or the university pilots will be most probably towards Q3
Mhm.
because it's where the scope is clear, also multi-country scope is clear, and we will start working. And the
Yeah,
confirmations are all there in place. For the commercial validations, we are literally, as we speak, working on the starting the pilots. So actually, starting maybe end of Q1, we really aim to log the few validations and start working really on the challenges.
yeah, yeah. You have to do multiple things at the same time because you already have, indeed, like you say, already put the next pilots in place for in a year, maybe in a
Yeah.
different sector. So it's quite a yeah, different timelines, I can imagine. And
And
I can
in that
imagine.
sense,
Yeah, tell me.
no, it just it still it feels like focus because we only target one market of one industry of semiconductors, one specific place or area in the semiconductors as well as in advanced ceramics. So indeed, it's multiple players, but it's the same issue. So for us, we do not customize the product, which makes it's standard, but we really try to make sure that we just have three parallel clients that who can use the same product and validate it,
Yeah.
hopefully.
So you can easily scale in that sense.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
helpful at least. And like you said, you are doing all that now. You are currently raising. You're currently fundraising. Are you also gonna spend part of your funding to increase the team, or what else will you do with the funding?
Yes, absolutely. This is
I
one
can
of
imagine.
we
Yeah.
can move much faster when we have enough hands. I believe in that. So this is one of the key, let's say, allocations or key goals that, and the reasons to fundraise. So there are a few aspects that we are now doing. So first of all, IP protection,
Yeah.
because we are working already. We are working on IP protection, but this will be even more enforced in that sense. Second, the team. We need more technical experts, commercial technical slash commercial experts who can help translate the value into commercial terms and move towards also market validation faster in the first pilots or second pilots, and and support in the lab. So in really delivering on the pilots. So we need researchers or more chemical engineers who can really work together with us to actually deliver all these products.
Yeah.
So these are the
Yeah.
major
The
things that.
major uses of funding. And indeed, you mentioned IP protection, so that's actually a good point. It was still on my list to ask. IP, how easy is it to do what you're doing now, and who else is it? Actually, two questions. So, how easy is it to replicate, and how far are you with your IP protection? And second one is, who is already operating in the space, and who are your competitors here, and why are
Yeah.
you so different than them?
Yeah, so in general, nanotechnology is not new. There are multiple
Yeah,
ways to get to specific nanomaterials. However, when we approach, suppliers or competition in that sense, or we read patents available, one of the major things is scalability. It's very difficult to scale. So in many cases, materials are available in a lab grade up to 1 kilo, 100 grams, and so on. And they're very expensive because it's very difficult to produce them in these methods. So there is one thing, scalability. The second is the portfolio of metals that are actually on the market, because indeed, if we say rare earth metals are quite complex, they're complex in behavior, they're complex in maintenance, so it's very difficult to get high purity, consistent quality of these metals. So if we analyze them, or when we analyze the market, actually, it's very few companies that can do that at scale, but they
yeah,
do not work with the same portfolio that we do. We work with most complex metals and more scarce metals that are available and that are needed actually for high performance applications. For example, scandium oxide. It's used in aerospace and so on. So it's very high value material that is almost not available in a nanoscale in the market. So in this case, we focus on a strategic
yeah,
portfolio, and scalability is our second, let's say, USP, I would say,
yeah,
because we are able to deliver these metals at scale, so from 1 gram to 100 kilograms, as we said, without huge investments in capex. So we talk about modules of 100 or 200K instead of millions or billions in that case.
yeah. Okay, clear, clear. And do you also differentiate in terms of the sector that you're focusing on, or is it something you looked at what the competition is doing, or did you look more, okay, what is the sourcing side of things?
Yeah, it's mainly the sourcing and
Okay,
application. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. But currently, what we're doing, we are so the reason why, for example, semiconductors in our interviews that we learn, right? The reason why semiconductors sector doesn't go to nanomaterials of gold or platinum, for example, is because of availability and the price. So it's very difficult to get the volumes and the consistency at the price that is affordable to scale. So yeah, once we can match these parameters, then it's easily adoptable.
yeah, okay, clear. No, clear. Thanks for that. One more question about your
Yeah.
funding. So you explained your use of funding. How much are you raising right now, and is there already something committed? Can you share a bit about your current round?
Yes. So we are raising our pre-seed. It's our
Yeah.
first fundraiser. We're raising 1.5 million for the
Yeah.
next 18 to 24 months. And basically, we are halfway through right now. So we have
Yeah. Great.
commitments already with the investors and some co-investors. So we are now in a due diligence process, and hopefully we can finalize it very quickly.
Yeah.
But yes, we are still open for investors and co-investors to join us in this
Yeah.
round.
Great. Great. Yeah. Good to know. And thank you for explaining. I think, yeah, for me as someone who doesn't know anything about this subject, I think one of the key assets that you have is that you can make it very explainable. Of course, I saw you already a few times, but I think you can really do that. So I hope for everything that's very clear. If not, they can still reach out to you or to me and ask further questions. So you're fundraising at the moment. So for everyone who's interested, reach out to Anna, reach out to us, and we can put you into touch as well. So my name is Laurie Lancee. This was AtVenture DealFlow, and I see you at the next great deal.